All right. Hello, everybody. This is going to be a recurring segment on my channel called Card Shark. I will be going over multiple things in the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. Today's segment will be about the Lair of Darkness structure deck that recently came out. It's really cool. It's been the first structure that I've actually bought in the past, we'll say, like 10 years or so. But basically, it allows you to manipulate cost mechanics, which is pretty cool. So we'll crack into this here. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because this is a pretty competitive deck, if you know what you're doing. And if you don't have a lot of money, and you just want to be like, hey, I want to be semi-competent and spend maybe like 30 bucks on a deck, you'll be able to build the deck that I build here today, which is 3 of these structures, which you should be able to get for $30 or less. So, let's see here. I guess they're starting to come out with Duel Links code things, which I know Poke Russ is into, so I might either save these for him or myself when I get a new phone. And we're going to be getting right into this here. So, right off the bat, the holographic cards that you're able to get, I can't tell if that's holo or not. I don't think it is. But we have this card right here, Lilith, Lady of Lament. Comes in the deck. I'm going to turn on the light just in case people can't see that well. Okay, so Lilith, Lady of Lament. She is statted as a 3-star monster, 2,000 attack, 0 defense. Obviously, the defense won't matter because she's very powerful in attack mode. But the effect is, if this card is normal summoned, its original attack becomes 1,000. You can tribute 1 dark monster, which is a quick effect, to reveal 1 normal trap or 3 normal traps from your deck. Your opponent randomly chooses 1 for you to set on the field, and you shuffle the rest back into your deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, nice thing about this is, you got a dark floater sitting there. You can just sack it off. You can do that during your opponent's turn, and the reason that's really nice is because of the field spell, Lair of Darkness. This is basically what the deck's going to be built around. It is a field spell that says, all face-up monsters on the field become dark. Once per turn, if you would tribute a monster you control to activate a card effect, which means you would tribute a monster as a cost for a card effect. You can tribute 1 dark monster your opponent controls, even though you do not control it. Once per turn, during the end phase, special summon as many Torment tokens, Fiend, Dark, level 3, 1,000 attack, 1,000 defense, as possible to the turn player's field in defense position, up to the number of monsters tributed this turn while this card was face up. So, on your turn or on your opponent's turn, whoever's tributing monsters will gain that many of these 1,000 attack and defense tokens during their end phase. Which is pretty useful, especially because you're going to be sacking monsters left and right anyway with this deck. So you're going to want 3 of these, the field spells, and you're going to want 3 of these Liliths, for sure. Now, the other cards that we have that are holographic are Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair. It is an 8-star dragon, 3,000 attack, 2,000 defense. It says, your opponent cannot tribute this face-up card on the field, and cannot target it with card effects. You can only use each of these effects of this card once per turn. Well, actually, it says you can only use the effects of Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair once per turn. It's important that it says that as opposed to this card, because if it said this card, you could have multiple copies, and they would each be able to use this effect. But these effects for this card, this card's name, essentially, can only be used once per turn, regardless of which card it actually is. So these are the effects. If a dark monster you control is tributed, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. If it was there when you tributed, or hand, even if it wasn't there when you tributed. Or, your second effect is, you can tribute one dark monster your opponent controls. Your opponent places one card from their hand on either the top or bottom of the deck. So you basically force them to lose a card from their hand, and they get to choose whether they'll draw it or not. It's up to them. Either way, it's good for you. But the real thing is it can keep coming back, which is really nice. The other card is Arima, the Wicked Warden. So that's going to be this card right here. It's statted at 4 stars, 1700 attack, 0 defense. It says you can discard this card, add 1 Lair of Darkness from your deck to your hand. You can tribute 1 dark monster, draw 1 card, or if you tributed a dark monster other than this card to activate this effect, you can add 1 dark monster with 2000 or more defense from your deck to your hand instead. You can only use this effect of Arima the Wicked Warden once per turn. So again, same thing with the giant 8-star dragon. Regardless of how many of these you have out, you can only use the effect once. And again, it's pretty well statted. 17's a bit weak for attack. 0 defense actually helps you because of there's cards in here that go off of 0 defense, which we may or may not use. I'll have to get a list ready here. And this is off the top of my head. This is not, oh, this topped a tournament or whatever, because I don't look into things like that. It's unnecessary, and it holds you back more than anything else. So, the last holo is called Grinning Grave Virus, and it looks like this. It's a normal trap, so it works with Lilith, and it says, tribute 1 dark monster with 2000 or less attack. Or 3,000 or less attack. Your opponent destroys 1 card of their choice in their hand or deck for every 500 attack that monster had on the field. If you tributed a monster with 2,000 or more attack to activate this card, look at all cards your opponent draws until the end of their 3rd turn after this card's activation, and destroy all monsters among them. Cards destroyed and sent to the graveyard by this card's effect cannot activate their own effects that same turn. So, while your opponent will still be able to dump stuff from their deck, they won't be able to use it as soon as they dump it. That being said, most good things that are dumped don't just activate immediately. So this card isn't that great of a card at all. I'm not sure if we're going to use it. I'm sure there's some decks out there that this would be a good side deck card for, but in main deck, no. No. Okay, so we just went through 4 cards. 3 of them we're going to be probably using 3 of per deck. The giant Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair, we're probably going to use 2, but we might use 3. It's either going to be 2 or 3. So then we're going to look through here. And we're going to go through the monsters that are in the deck first here. So the first one that I want to address is, I'm not sure if it's the first appearance, but I know it used to be a big card back from when I was playing really competitively. Tour Guide from the Underworld, starter deck reprint. This card used to be between $130 and $300, and you're getting it in the starter deck. Now, part of the reason is because it's not nearly as good anymore due to the changes that Konami made. However, that being said, depending on what your goals for your Exceed or Extra Monster Card Zone are, it could still be really useful. It's statted at 1,000 attack, 600 defense, but its effect says, When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 3 monster, or one level 3 fiend monster from your hand or deck, but it has its effects negated, and it cannot be used as a synchro material. So again, while it's a good card in general, it's not really good for this deck because it'll negate Lilith, and Lilith would be like the main reason you would want to bring it, summon this card anyway. So we probably aren't going to use it. Absolute King Back Jack. It is a 1-star fiend, 0 attack, 0 defense. It looks like this. Okay, and I'm going to go over its effect right now. It says, during your opponent's turn, this is a quick effect, you can banish this card from the graveyard. Excavate the top card of your deck. Excavate means you reveal the top card of your deck so your opponent knows what it is too. And if it's a normal trap, set it to your field. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. That set card can be activated during this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can look at 3 cards from the top of your deck and then place them on the top of the deck in any order. You can only use each effect of Absolute King Backjack once per turn. So this is kind of interesting. I don't think it's actually going to be useful because what I would want to do is, like, so you summon it, let's see, excavate the top card from your deck if it's banished. Okay, so what you want to do with this is, this will get sent to the graveyard, and then you set up your, you want to get it sent to the graveyard on your turn, so you set up your top 3, right? You put a normal trap there, and as soon as they start their turn, you just activate this, you banish it from play, and you get a free trap that can be immediately activated, which that's actually really useful. There's multiple decks that would be just wonderful for. Not sure if this is going to be that type of deck, but it might be, so I'm going to put it in the maybe pile here. Moving on, we have Rolling Karibo, another Karibo card, so 1-star fiend, dark, 300 attack, 200 defense. It looks like this. And it says, if this card is distributed, draw a card. If your monster would be destroyed by battle, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So that's really cool. This is tributed in any way, not just for a tribute summon. So, of course, it's going to work with all the nice little tributing traps that we have, and the spells that tribute. Or I'm pretty sure it would also work if you just tribute it for a tribute summon as well. Again, I'd have to look that one up, but because it might miss timing, but I don't think it will. So, again, we'll put that one in maybe. Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord, 4-star Dark Fiend, 500 attack, 2000 defense. Looks like this. Okay. So, you can tribute any number of dark monsters. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, it gains 500 attack for each monster you tributed. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can target 1 level 5 or higher dark monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Duke Shade, the Sinister Shadow Lord, once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate either of this card's effects except dark monsters. So being able to add dark monsters that are, what's it say, level 5 or higher from your graveyard to your hand, that's a really strong effect. This deck won't need that effect because the monster that we're going to focus on summons itself out of the grave. But for other monsters, other big decks that use high-level monsters that are dark, that card would be awesome. So I'm going to put that in the no pile for now. We have Diablos, King of the Abyss, which is a reprint. It is 7 stars, 2800 attack, 1000 defense. Dragon type, cannot be special summoned. If you tribute this card, the tributes must be dark. If you tribute summon this card, the tributes must be dark. Cannot be tributed by card effects while face up on the field. Okay, so that's to get around your opponent tributing your own stuff for that field spell. Once per turn during your opponent's draw phase, before their normal draw, look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and if you do, place that card on either the top or bottom of the deck. So that's really cool because that'll let you combo into things like if you really want to mess with people, you can run Mind Crush and stuff like that and just be like, oh, okay, well, you can have that card, and I'm going to Mind Crush it now, so it's gone. So, again, big 2800, I'm going to put that in the maybe pile for now. We have Lich Lord, King of the Underworld. He is 6-star, zombie, dark, 2400 attack, 1200 defense. And it says, if you tribute summon this card, the tribute must be dark. If this card is tributed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, add this card from your graveyard to your hand. So that is your typical 2400 one tribute monster. Looks like this. Not a good effect. Like, not worth running at all. So we're going to get rid of that. I mean, you keep getting it back, but getting stuff back to your hand would only really be good if you're going to, discard and get free discards. Now, that card, the field spell doesn't allow you to use your opponent's monsters for a tribute summon. It only allows you to use it for card effects. So that card actually is pretty useless for us. One of my old favorite cards got reprinted in this. It is Prometheus, King of the Shadows. Fiend, 4-star, 400 or 1200 attack, 800 defense. Dark, if this card is normal summoned, banish one or more dark monsters from your graveyard. And if you do, this card gains 400 attack for each until the end of this turn. So basically, late game, let's say you're running like a Dark Arm Dragon or something where like you need specific things in your graveyard. Pop him out, your graveyard immediately equals what you want it to equal, and this guy is ginormous in attack power. So that's really helpful. This deck does not need to manipulate the graveyard numbers like that, so we will not be using it. Now we have Archfiend Emperor, the first Lord of Horror. It is 8-star, 3000 attack, 2000 defense Fiend. Dark, it says you can normal summon this card without tributing, but its original attack and defense become halved, which will put it at 1500 and 1000. You can not special summon any monsters except Fiend monsters. Once per turn, you can banish one Archfiend card from your hand or graveyard, then target one card on the field and destroy it. So, if you're in multiples of this guy, first of all, he's 8 stars, which means he's great for trade-in, which I don't think this deck comes with. No, it does not. Okay, so we're not concerned about that. But once per turn, you can banish an Archfiend card from your hand or graveyard and then target a card on the field and destroy it. That's a pretty good effect. The fact that I'm not sure how many Archfiend cards we're going to be using is a factor. I do see the deck comes with one more that'll be coming up, so that'll go in the maybe pile. Caius, the Mega Monarch. So if you played Yu-Gi-Oh, you know what Monarchs are. They're 2400, 1000 attack monsters that when you tribute summon them, because they're 6 stars, they get various effects. The Mega Monarchs actually turned it into a full deck type. They are 2 tribute monsters that allow you to tribute the one, the Monarch that's the same type but lesser. So like Caius the Dark Monarch, you could tribute for Caius the Mega Monarch, and that would be the only tribute required. But this guy says he is a dark monster, 8 stars, 2800 attack, 1000 defense. And he says you can tribute this card by tributing one tributed summon monster. If the card is tribute summoned, target one card on the field, banish it, and if you do, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Then if it's a dark monster, banish all cards with that name from the hand, main deck, and extra deck, and graveyard of the player who controlled it. If this card was tribute summoned by tributing a dark monster, add this additional effect. You can target 2 cards instead. So, pretty strong effect. The stats are slightly weak, and it really relies on if you're going to tribute a tributed monster or not. So, again, maybe pile. Legendary Maju Garzette. So the Maju Garzette cards are really cool. This one says it is a 0/0, 0 attack, 0 defense. Fiend, 8-star Dark. And its effect says, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by attributing all monsters you control. This card's attack becomes the combined original attack of the attributed monsters. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Now, the important term on this guy is original attack. So you remember that card I just mentioned, the where is he? Archfiend Emperor, the first Lord of Horror, this guy here. He was the guy that's like 3,000 attack, 2,000 defense. He can be utilized. You can normal summon him, and his attack goes to 1,500. If you tribute him for Legendary Majugarzet here, his attack, regardless of if he was a full 3,000 or a 15, would count as a 3,000 because it says the original attack, which is really awesome. So I'm going to put that in the use pile. We're probably going to tech one just because I think it's really cool. This one's another good tech. It is called Vanity's Fiend. It is another 2,400 attack, 1,200 defense monster, 6-star Dark Fiend. Very simple. It says, cannot be special summoned. Neither player can special summon monsters. So if you know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh!, all of their stuff goes off of special summoning a whole bunch of monsters, comboing off into everything. This guy prevents that. Now, he would also be really useful with that card that gets you guys back to hand, since he can't be special summoned. But there's other cards in the game that'll let you do that, like Monster Reincarnation. Really cheap, easy to get, like 10 center cards. But, again, we're just going to tech one, see how he does. Moving on, we have Mist Archfiend. Alright, so this will count towards our Archfiend quota for our destruction effects, which is awesome. Now, it's a 5-star, 2,400 attack, 0 defense. Not really liking that a lot, 5 stars. So, let's see. You can normal summon this card without tributing. Once per turn, during your end phase. If this card was summoned this way, destroy this card, and if you do, take 1,000 damage. So, alright, so that's really cool. So this guy, he's going to come out at 2,400 for free. And he's going to, like, run into something, right? So 2,400 gets around most stuff in the deck. And you're going to run into something. Maybe you'll run into a trap. If you do, so what? You're going to lose that card anyway, right? So you don't care what happens to that card as long as you get rid of one of your opponent's cards for it. And it becomes fodder for your Archfiend Emperor card, which is getting better and better as we go through the deck. So we're probably going to be using that. That's probably going to leave the maybe pile. Now we go to Infernal Dragon. I remember this card. This is a reprint as well. It is a 4-star Dark Dragon, 2,000 attack, 0 defense. Once per turn, during the end phase, if this card attacked this turn, destroy this card. When this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you contribute 1 monster, special summon this card from the graveyard. So, like, if you have the field spell up and they run into this thing and murder it, does it say by battle? No. If they murder it with either a trap or by battle, you can, if you have the field spell up, you can just tribute their monster and resummon this out of your grave for free, which is really strong. So next will be Archfiend Cavalry, 4-star Dark Monster, 1,900 attack, 0 defense. So really good stats. Fiend, if this card on the field is destroyed by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Archfiend monster in your graveyard, except Archfiend Cavalry, and special summon it, but it cannot attack this turn. So, if it's destroyed by card effect, 1,900 attack, pretty strong. It's fodder for the Archfiend archetype that it comes in this deck, so again, really strong. I'm going to say run it. Like, that's a really good card, in my opinion. I mean, maybe they will just punch it in the face, in which case you won't get to summon, but it doesn't really matter. Stygian Street Patrol, 4-star Dark Fiend, 1,600 attack, 1,200 defense. It says, if this card destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original level of that monster in the graveyard by its level times 100. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon a fiend monster with 2,000 or less attack from your hand. 2,000 or less attack. That could be a lot of stuff in here. Now it does say fiend, so that's going to have to go into maybe pal because our good cards that we've been getting, not all of them are fiend. Phantom of Chaos, I can already tell you, good card, we won't be using it. Now, it is a 4-star Dark Fiend, 0 attack, 0 defense, and it says, your opponent takes no battle damage from attacks involving this card. Once per turn, you can target one effect monster in your graveyard, banish that target, and if you do, until the end phase, this card's name and original attack become that monster's name and original attack, and replace this effect with that monster's original effects. You must control this face-up card to activate and to resolve this effect. So, again, there's decks that really utilize this. We won't be, so it goes in the no pile. Plague Wolf, 1,000 attack, 1,000 defense, 3-star Dark Zombie. Once per turn, you can make this card's attack become double its original attack until the end of this turn. Once per turn, during the end phase, if this card or if this effect was activated, destroy this card. Not really useful because everything else that we have in the deck is really strong. And I know why they put it in there. They put it in there because there's some traps that require weaker monsters. But again, we don't need it. We're fine. Okay, now we have Fiendish Rhino Warrior. It is an Earth 3-star Fiend with 1,400 attack and 900 defense. Fiend monsters you control, except Fiendish Rhino Warrior, cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So that's really good. You can send one Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard, except Fiendish Rhino Warrior. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send one Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard, except Fiendish Rhino Warrior. You can only use this effect of Fiendish Rhino Warrior once per turn. So basically, if this guy dies, he protects you guys from like everything. If he dies, you get to chuck a Fiend from your deck to your grave, which usually that's a really good thing. I would chuck the giant 3,000 dragon that can just special summon itself out of the graveyard. Obvious. And the final monster of the deck is Curry Bandit. I used to like this card. It's another Karibo card. It's statted as a Dark Fiend, 3 stars, 1,000 attack, 700 defense. And it says, during the end phase, if this card was normal summoned this turn, you contribute this card, excavate the top 5 cards of your deck. You can add 1 excavated spell or trap to your hand. Also send the remaining cards to the graveyard. So this guy, you look at the top 5, you get 1 spell or trap, and then you chuck everything else to the grave. Not quite sure if I like that. That's going to go in the no pile. Okay, so let me see. We will definitely be utilizing the Archfiend Emperor. And probably try Rolling Karibo. And I want to attack at least 1 Diabolos. Okay. So that covers the monsters of the deck. Next, we will go into the spells, which we already saw one of, the Lair of Darkness. Obviously, we'll be utilizing this. So that goes in the yes pile. Recurring Nightmare. Normal spell. Target 2 dark monsters with 0 defense in your graveyard. Add those targets to your hand. Most of the stuff we had, I'll show you guys that. That's what it looks like. Most of the stuff we had was 0 defense. That's going in the deck. Lair of Darkness. Probably one of the best draw cards in the game. Is it 3 per deck right now? Normal spell. Draw 2 cards. Then banish 1 dark monster from your hand. Or, if you do not have any in your hand, send your entire hand to the graveyard. Looks like this. We'll be running 3. Hand Destruction. Each player sends 2 cards from their hand to the graveyard, then draws 2 cards. So this doesn't seem like a bad card. It is a quick play, which means you can use it on your opponent's turn, but there's some very big downsides to this. The major downside is your opponent has to have 2 cards in their hand for you to even use this card. If they have 1 or less, then you won't ever be able to play this card until they have 2 or more. The other one is They discard 2, draw 2, or they send 2, draw 2. You send 2, draw 2, but you still lose this, so you're still losing a card. It's still a -1, and while this deck does get a lot of pluses off via the viruses, where like you gain card advantage, which is the number of cards in your hand and on the field, as opposed to your opponent's hand and field, it's not worth it. So that's going in the no pile. That's a hard no. Now, Foolish Burial Goods. This is the first time seeing this. It is a normal spell. I've heard it's really good. It says, send 1 spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard. You can only activate 1 Foolish Burial Goods per turn. Okay, no, that's not a good card. That's gone. So, Boogie Trap. Normal spell. Discard 2 cards, then target 1 trap in your graveyard. Set that target. It can be activated this turn. You can only activate 1 Boogie Trap per turn. Okay, so here's the thing with this. Activating a trap immediately, really cool. Discarding 2 cards and losing this is -3 right off the bat. Not worth it at all. Now, there's ways to get around this, but those cards aren't in this deck, so we will not be using that. 2 more. Fires of Doomsday. Special summon 2 Doomsday tokens. It's a quick play spell. Those tokens are Fiend, Dark, level 1, attack 0, defense 0. Those are summoned in defense position. These tokens cannot be tributed for a tribute summon unless it is for a dark monster. You cannot summon other monsters the turn you activate this card, but you can normal set. So I know why they put that card in here. This is what it looks like. It's really good because as a quick play, so you can use it to shield yourself from damage on your opponent's turn. Also, you can use the tokens to sacrifice for costs for things. Really good. But the deck itself came with a lot of high-level cards, and this was their way of saying, well, you know, if you only bought one of these decks, you could use this to get around the fact that you're going to be hand-clogged the entire time with giant monsters. This is unnecessary. We won't be using it. And the final spell, Veil of Darkness. It is a continuous spell. It says, during your draw phase, if you draw a dark monster or monsters, you can reveal any number of them, send them to the graveyard, and then you can draw 1 more card. So if you're looking for, this is what it looks like. If you're looking for a spell or trap, or if you just really want to get dark monsters in the graveyard, like if you're a turbo deck for some reason, you just chucking dark monsters, you can do that, and you'll just keep getting monsters in your graveyard until you hit a spell or trap. I, for one, this deck won't be utilizing that, so we will not be running that card. Which, if you look at our spells that we have 3 spells right now. Lair of Darkness, Recurring Nightmare, and Lair of Darkness. So I'm going to have some maybes, just in case, you know, we have to, just to make the deck run smoothly. So I'm going to keep Hand Destruction and Fires of Doomsday in the maybe pile, and everything else is gone. Okay, now off into our spells. So, we're going into traps now. So now we have, let me see if I can't make some sense of this. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Okay, so I don't even know what this is. I'm going to go after this first. This is Sinister Yorishiro. It is a continuous trap card. It says, each turn, 1 level 5 or higher fiend monster you normal summon can be summoned without tributing. If exactly 1 normal summoned set level 5 or higher, 1 normal summoned or set level 5 or higher fiend monster and no other card would be destroyed, you can send this card to the graveyard instead. So this card allows you to get around tributing your monsters, and it also protects your monsters, which that's pretty cool. That's definitely going in the maybe pile. Crush Card Virus, the errated version. I believe this is at 3 per deck, and this is why. It is a normal trap card. Tribute 1 dark monster with 1,000 or less attack. Your opponent takes no damage until the end of the next turn after this card resolves. Also, You look at your opponent's hand and all monsters they control, and if you do, destroy the monsters among them with 1500 or more attack. Then your opponent can destroy up to 3 monsters with 1500 or more attack in their deck. So essentially, it allows them to send monsters from their deck to the grave, which usually they want to play cards to do. Now, I was told it didn't have the initial effect, so this is my first time reading that. It's not as bad as people think it is. I'm actually going to probably tech one of these crush card viruses. This is what it looks like. And it gives us something with a different name for our the one monster that gets us 3 separate traps. Okay, now, Deck Devastation Virus. It is the green virus. It looks like this. Normal trap. It says, tribute 1 dark monster with 2000 or more attack. Look at your opponent's hand, all monsters they control, and all cards they draw until the end of their 3rd turn after this card's activation, and destroy all those monsters with 1500 or less attack. Really good card effect. Now, depending on what they're running, if you run into another one of these decks, it won't do anything because, you know, your monsters are giant in terms of attack. But there's a lot of decks out there that are combo that have little wimpy monsters that this would crush. So that goes in the maybe pile. Probably the best trap in the deck is, well, one of the 2 for sure. Eradicator Epidemic Virus. Normal trap, another virus, looks like this. It says, tribute 1 dark monster with 2500 or more attack, and declare 1 type of card, spell or trap. Look at your opponent's hand, all spells and traps they control, and all cards they draw until the end of their 3rd turn after this card's activation. And destroy all cards of that declared type. So get rid of spells, boom, good to go. We will be running that for sure. Full Force Virus, the other excellent trap in this deck. This is a first showing of it, I believe. It says, tribute a dark monster with 2000 or more defense. Look at your opponent's hand, all monsters they control, and all cards they draw until the end of their 3rd turn after this card's activation, and destroy all monsters with 1500 or less defense. So giant monsters with light defense, like this deck, they would destroy this deck really, really fast. So a great card. We're going to be running multiples of it. Next trap, Dark Light, looks like this. Normal trap. It says, tribute a dark monster with 1500 or more attack. Destroy all monsters that were special summoned this turn. So if your opponent special summons a whole bunch of monsters for some reason, all you need is a monster with 1500 or more attack, which is really easy to get. And boom, their special summon monsters are gone. Probably tech one of those. This one, Trap of Darkness. If your life points is 3000 or less, pay 1000 life points. Then target 1 normal trap in your graveyard, except Trap of Darkness. This card's effect becomes that target's activated effect, and then you banish the target. So if you're low in life points, you use this, and any of your viruses that are in the grave, their effect goes off immediately. You don't have to tribute for them. You just get the good stuff. So not bad. I don't like paying the life points, though, so that goes in the maybe pile. Next is Mind Crush, what I was referencing earlier. Looks like this. Normal trap. Really good card. It says, declare 1 card name. If that card is in your opponent's hand, they must discard all copies of it. Otherwise, you discard 1 random card. So if you're running that Diablos Dragon and you're seeing what they're going to draw next, you can just use that and make them discard it. I don't think we'll be running it, though. Next is Curse of Darkness. It is a continuous trap. Looks like this. Hasn't really been reprinted that much, so I'm really excited to have an extra 3 of these. It says, each time a spell card is activated, immediately after it resolves, the player that activated it takes 1000 damage. Great in this format because everyone's like, oh, traps are slow, and aside from the Solemn Brigade, so we're going to mass produce our spells. So they kill themselves really quick with that. I actually, one of the tournaments I was in, I watched somebody kill himself with that in Premature Burial. That was a long time ago, but Rise to Full Height is the final trap in the deck. It looks like this. And It says, target one face-up monster on the field, double its defense, but its defense becomes 0 at the end of this turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one monster you control. Your opponent's monsters cannot attack for the rest of this turn, except to attack that monster. And you can only activate one rise to full height per turn. So essentially, if you have like one monster on the field and they have 5 monsters, you can use this real quick, and they won't be able to directly attack you. They can just kill your one monster. So it's kind of like a Wabuko, but again, Wabuko is a lot better than this thing. So you're probably not going to be running this. It is nice that you can banish it. What's to say? Banish it from your graveyard. But I mean, that's basically it. That'll go into maybe pile for now. Okay, so now I'm going to crack open the other 2 decks, and I'm going to build a quick deck here. Let's see if anybody else has joined in. Hi, Awakened Dragons. So, let's see, normal Karibo. Yeah, I like normal Karibo. When I first started playing, I got my butt kicked a lot by somebody that was using a tomato control deck and just teched in like 2 Karibos. And it was kind of scary. Like, you know, you go into a tournament, at the time I was like 19, and I'm facing this 12-year-old with a tomato control deck. I didn't even know what it was, and he's just like, yeah, you know, tomatoes, creature swap, I have a Karibo, you can't kill me. And it was very humbling, to say the least, let me tell you. My opinion of the special zone rule and link summoning. So in terms of that, I am super excited. It's actually why I got back in the game, and I'll tell you. The reason for that is basically the problem with the game was, you know, you have things, you spam out 5 synchros, spam out 3 exceeds, do all this crazy stuff. You're sitting there, you're waiting on your turn like, wow, you know, this is fun. I know I'm going to die, but I can't do anything about it. And essentially, what ends up happening is Konami took a look at it finally, and they were like, all right, you know what? We're done with this. We need to find some way to keep everything viable, but we also have to find a way to slow down what's going on here. And the way they did that was they created yet another card type, of course, because that's what they do. And they were like, okay, so you can bring out, everything's still legal, you can bring out what you want, but you get 1 zone to do it now. Unless you use this new type, which all the monsters are pretty low powered. Like I've seen there's a few cards out there like that 3000 attack dragon card that just nukes stuff. It's like a really good card. But most of the really good ones require more than 2 monsters to use, which I think is really fair. And yeah, they can you can link a whole bunch of stuff together, but it's not nearly as easily as it used to be. But that's just answering your questions there. So we're going to crack this open. And basically, like, you know, getting back into the game, you got $30. This is what I would recommend buying right off the bat. Just because being able to tribute your opponent's monsters, and it's really strong because now the field spell, when it says you're able to tribute your opponent's monsters, so think about it. What happens is, whenever you activate a card, you activate the card, and then you pay the cost immediately. And then your opponent responds. So let's say your opponent's sitting on Solemn Judgment, right? It negates anything in the game, doesn't matter. They're sitting on Solemn Judgment, and you're like, well, yeah, I'll activate Virus Type 3 that I have in my deck because it's all viruses. And they're like, well, I'm going to negate that. They're like, well, okay, so hold on. Let's go through this one step at a time. I'm going to activate Virus. I'm then going to pay cost for Virus, i.e. your monster. I just paid the cost. Now you get a chance to respond. So you getting rid of their monster is cost, which is phenomenal. Now there's some other cards that are really cheap that you can find that'll make this deck a lot better. My two favorites that I would add to this deck in a heartbeat, besides your typical like Monster Reborn and Dark Hole and things like that, but if you want to keep it thematic, enemy controller, sack their first monster, steal their second, really cool. Also, if you want to be a real jerk, main 3 Eradicator Viruses, and then just run Rush Recklessly. The second they summon an 1800 or higher monster, you Rush Recklessly their monster and sack it for EEV. And if you have 2 Eradication Viruses going, 1 for spells and 1 for traps, that just gives them monsters to deal with. Which, you know, maybe that's enough. Maybe it's not enough. It depends on the deck that they're running. Obviously, you would like side your third virus, but you know, come on, cards, come out and play. Okay, so definitely going to put this together here. Okay, so we got that. We got our maybe pile over here. We got our dual lengths random cards over there. Where's that? There it is. Okay. Okay, so let's cut all this stuff. So let's just assume that we're doing what they want. We're running all the shinies, right? So we're going 3 Lilith right off the bat. We're gonna do 2 of the Diablos, and then we'll put 1 in the maybe pile over here. We will run 3 of the Arima the Wicked Ones, these guys, because they're so good. 3 of the Lair of Darknesses, and the Arimas can search the Lair of Darkness for you too, so which is really cool. Okay, so let's see what we're working with right now. Arima, Lilith, Diablos, Arima, Lilith. Okay, so we got all that stuff. Now, Archfiend Emperor, Diablos, Rilling Karibo, Archfiend Cavalry, Vanity's Fiend, Infernal Dragon, Mist Archfiend, and Legendary Majugarzette. Okay, so going through the other decks, we are going to max out our Archfiend Emperor Horror, because the effect is so good, and you don't need Attribute Summon for him, so that helps out a lot. And where is it at? Mist Archfiend, Archfiend Cavalry, Curry Bandit. I'm just getting the stuff out that I like right now. As soon as I see what insanity I actually have that I actually like, I will start to make cuts, which I think I just hit. Okay, so let's just check our monsters right now. 1, 2, that's going to be 4, that's 10 up there. And then we come down here, that is 19, 20, so we're at 23 monsters at this moment in time. I don't like that. That's too monster heavy. So, well, it is and it isn't, because remember, we're running 3 Lair of Darknesses. That's going to get rid of our monsters. That's going to also speed up the deck. And we might, remember, we don't have a lot of good spell and traps that we're working with. right out of the gate. So for now, I'll just remember that I need to cut 2 monsters if I want to, which are probably going to end up being a Linkuriboh or a Relinkuriboh. My apologies. I'm actually already cutting one. So we're at 21 monsters. We have 1 Relinkuriboh. We have 1 Diablos, King of the Abyss. So I'm going to show what I got right now. So we're running one of these guys just to check him out, see if he works well. We have one of these guys, the guy that can't be special summoned, but you can tribute, you have to tribute darks, and you can look at the top card of their deck and put it on the top or bottom of their deck. We're running 3 of our Mist Archfiends, these guys, 2400, but you can normal summon them without tribute, and then they blow up for 1000 damage to your face if you don't get rid of them somehow. We're running 3 of these guys, Archfiend Cavalries, because it fits the little mini archetype engine that we got running in here. And it's the 4-star 1900 that if it's destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target an Archfiend monster except for itself, or except for another Archfiend Cavalry, and special summon it, but it can't attack that turn. So again, it'll get this guy that we're running 3 of, the big 20 or the big 3000 beater that can nuke stuff and summon itself for no tributing. We're going to tech one of these guys because I love these guys. All the Majuu Grisettes I really like. Sack all your dark monsters. He gains all their combined original attacks, and he gains piercing through defense, which is really good. 1 Vanity's Fiend. No special summoning for anybody. You know what? Goodbye. We just cut. I was going to run Infernal Dragon, but I decided not to. And then we got the 3 of Shiny Card 1 from the deck, who is Arima, who searches stuff out and nukes things and draws. Lilith, 3 of them, searches normal traps out. And 2 of the dragons, which is the main focal point of the deck that can keep special summoning after something was tributed. So, boom, 20 monsters right there. That's with 3 decks. Okay, so now we're moving on. We're going to our spell and traps. So, let's get spell and traps separated. Okay, so we're looking at that, Monster's gone, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so let's see here. Where'd that go? Here we go. So we will be running 3 Lair of Darknesses, the field spell that makes all this beautiful things possible. We will be running 3 Lair of Darkness. Make your deck turbo because you can, and why wouldn't you? Shame on you. If you can run a Lair of Darkness, for the love of God, run a Lair of Darkness. So, bada bing, bada boom. Right now, we probably won't need to, but right now I'm going to have 3 Recurring Nightmares. Just because, what else are we going to run, right? So that puts us at 9 spells. So I want this deck to be synergetic as possible. So what I am going to do, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take out the Curse of Darkness because it won't synergize with Lilith. So I am going to keep in a Dark Light. I am going to keep in a Crush Card Virus. So let me get out what I really like here. And I am going to keep. I'm going to tech in a Sinister Yorishiro because I think that's really cool. So let's see if I got room for it though. Unfortunately. So we're going to run 2 Eradicator Viruses. We're going to run 1 Crush Card Virus. There it is. We're going to run 2 Full Force Viruses. We're going to run 1 Deck Devastation Virus. And again, anything shy of 3, any of the viruses that are shy of 3, just side deck them. Because if you run into something where like, wow, this would really kill that deck, and all viruses kill a certain type of deck, you know what I mean? So just side deck the rest of them. It makes your side deck really easy to do too. Oh, this virus doesn't work that great against it? Chuck them all out. Bring in the next ones. Sacrifice our monsters to use it. That's wonderful. So we got 1 Deck Devastation, 1 Crush, 2 Eradicator, 2 Full Force. So I have 11 cards to play with. I got the 1 Yorishiro. I have 1 Dark Light. I'm not sure if I brought that up, but I am going to tech that. So 2, 4, 6, 8. I have 3 more cards I can put in. That is interesting. Okay. So if I'm going to bring in 3 more cards, I'm actually going to tech in... yeah, I'm going to tech in 2 of the Sinister Yorishiros because I really like them a lot. And I am actually going to go 2 Curse of Darknesses. Now what this means is your Liliths won't be as useful late game for their effects, but they're still going to be 2k beaters. So 4 shots with a Lilith, if you get them direct, then you win the game, essentially. So, now do I want... No, I don't want Veil of Darknesses. I'm just going to go through the stuff that I deemed not worthy and make sure. Okay. So we're good there. One of the Fires of Doomsday. I'm actually going to take out one of my Recurring Nightmares, and I'm going to put in the 1 Fires of Doomsday. We're going to see how that goes. Okay, so... Okay, so that's what I've decided. I'm going to shuffle it up real quick. Now I have this set to record. I'm really hoping that I can just post this on YouTube as well. If not, I'll be really sad, and I'll have to do something like this again. If I do something like this again, the deck build is likely to change completely, just based on whatever whims I have at the moment, because I'm kind of like that. But we're going to give ourselves a pile shuffle. If you don't pile shuffle, you should, because it randomizes your deck a lot nicer than just, you know, bridge shuffling or what have you. People will get irritated with you about it, but if you're actually going to a tournament or something, they all do it. So your casual friends might not understand, but it is definitely the way to go. I do it in Uno, and that drives everybody nuts. So Now, I'm not one of those people that can count cards either, so it's just like a randomization thing for me. I can guess what you have based on probability in my own crappy hand, though. The worse of a hand I have, the better of a hand you probably have, so that's always fun. Okay, so I shuffled the deck, and we're gonna see a first 5 here. Let's see what the deck gives us, right? So card number 1, Mist Archfiend. Good card to start with. You know, it's good fodder. You can summon it, you can slam with it, and then you can virus it if you have nothing else. Number 2, Archfiend Cavalier. So we got our Archfiend engine running pretty nice. Card number 3, Sinister Yorishiro. Now let me read this. Each turn, level 5 or higher fiend monster you normal summon can be summoned without tributing. So let's see. You can normal summon this card without tributing once per turn during the end phase. If this card was summoned this way, destroy this card. So, Sinister Yorishiro will actually protect Mist Archfiend from itself. You would have to sack it immediately, but Mist Archfiend would stay on the field. I don't think that's a good way to use Yorishiro. I would rather use it on your big boss monster that's 3,000 attack, but it's an option. So, moving on. Crush Card Virus. Do we have a target for that? I don't think we do yet. 1,000 or less attack, so no, not yet. And card number 5 is our Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair. Now, the really bad part about this hand is we don't have anything to get our field spell with, which is kind of important. So, what I would probably do is... I would set Yorishiro for sure. Set Crush Card Virus because there's no reason not to. Even if they nuke it, who cares, right? And then I'd probably summon Cavalry. At end turn, they would kill Cavalry somehow. Because I believe this only protects it from... Oh, yeah. So Yorishiro would protect it, but I'm actually going to let this die. So that would go to grave. I would draw for turn. I would get Reoccurring Nightmare. And then what I would do is I would activate Sinister Yorishiro. And... oh, I can't do that. That's a dragon. Okay. So I got Recurring Nightmare off of that. And I'd probably summon my Mist Archfiend and try to run it into whatever they had. And then I would let Mist Archfiend die. I would take 1,000. They would go. They would hit me direct. I would take damage. Draw into Curse of Darkness. At that point, the Crush card's hurting me because my deck isn't weak enough to run it. Okay. So they probably got me on this one. I'm actually going to now take out the Crush Card Virus because of that fact. And in lieu of that, we're going to put in... I don't know, what do you guys think? I'm thinking either Dark Light or... what could it be? A Dark Light or a Deck Devastation? Probably just going to do Dark Light, honestly. Okay, so we made that change. It would have worked really good had that been a Dark Light, because they would have special summoned by that point. So Dark Light would have been able to be used, for sure. So we're just going to lightly shuffle. Didn't go through too many cards, so starting again, number 5. Hi, there we go. Turbo, Lair of Darkness, card number 1. Lair of Darkness, card number 2. Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair, number 3. Diablos, King of the Abyss, number 4. And number 5 is Eradicator Virus. Now, Eradicator is not the best virus to use when you don't have a monster on the field yourself. But from here we go Lair of Darkness, and we get to draw 2 cards. And already it got a lot better. 100%. So we would banish Diablos, King of the Abyss. And that got us Full Force Virus and Arima, the Wicked Warden. Now, Arima is like one of the cards you want to see right off the bat. So you would normal summon Arima. It says you can discard this card and get a Lair of Darkness, which we don't need to do. You can tribute a dark monster, draw a card. and that would take care of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to summon him. I'll sacrifice him to draw a card, which will activate Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair, to special summon. And then from there, I can actually utilize Eradicator or Full Force Virus. Yeah. So I'm going to set both of those. I'm going to set my Fires of Doomsday, and I'm going to play Lair of Darkness. So I got all that stuff. My field is full. Now, so as soon as they go, I go, they draw, I activate Eradicator right away. And the reason I do this is so that it gets rid of their spell cards in case they have destruction things. So I look at their hand, I get rid of all their stuff, and it's a wonderful thing. Now, the second they summon a monster, I can Full Force Virus them. And even though, let's see, well, not necessarily. So we'll say I can't Full Force them right now. So they summon a monster, they punch me, I allow it. I could stop it with my Fires of Doomsday, but I choose not to. So then I draw for my turn. I get Recurring Nightmare, which is not usable at the moment. Let's see. No, actually, I would have a token from Lair of Darkness, so they would kill the token. I'd be fine. I would let them go. They would summon something. They would do something. Then I would Full Force Virus them because it'd probably combo into a bigger monster. So that goes there. Upon doing that, that resurrects Diablos, Lord of the Lair. So he hits field once again. They wouldn't have any spells. Their monsters would be, for the most part, gone. I would draw into another Full Force Virus. So I would set. I would swing. If they tried to use a trap, I would activate Full Force Virus, tributing him again. I would keep my Recurring Nightmare in hand. They would go. If it's a spell, it's gone. If it's a monster with 1,500 or less defense, it's gone. So it's probably gone. They don't really have much at this point. It'd be my turn again. So from there, oh, that's really good. So let's see here. I got Arima. Now it says... Okay, so this is what we'll do. We'll summon Arima, and then Arima will use its effect to sacrifice itself. That'll allow me to draw a card. Also, this will special summon back my Diablos. But in addition to doing that, it also gives me 2 monsters with 0 defense, which are my Arimas. So, Recurring Nightmare, boom, I get both of those back. They become either draw potential or search potential based on whatever I want them for. Still sitting on Fires of Doomsday. They would go, they would do something. Both viruses are still active, so they probably don't have much they can do. It would be my turn on the end phase. I would activate Fires of Doomsday. So I got 2 tokens on the field. Draw. I drew into Archfiend Emperor, the first Lord of Horror, which is pretty cool. So I would summon... Who would I summon? I would probably tribute one of my tokens for my Mist Archfiend, just to have more potential out there, and then I would swing. They would go. We'll say I think the virus has one more turn, but we'll say it's ended by now. So we'll say they Dark Hole or something. Worst case scenario in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like, that's how you test stuff out. So they top deck the Dark Hole. They punch me for a little bit. I would draw. I drew into Archfiend Cavalry. So now what I would do is... Banish an archery card from your hand or grave. Okay. So I would summon Arima, tribute Arima to draw a card, which I got Sinister Yorishio. Yorishiro. And that would set off my Diablos again, hits field. So I can set that. That won't really help me right now, but it probably will next turn. I kill their monster. They draw. Again, they're running on fumes, so they might have a combo. Maybe they won't. Regardless, we'll say they nuke my guy again. So let's see this thing. So they have a monster on the field because it nuked that guy. I will summon Lilith, and I will tribute their monster to search for 3 traps of different names from my deck that are normal. I will choose Dark Light, Deck Devastation, and Eradicator. And we'll just do a quick shuffle here. And we got Dark Light. So the rest go back in the deck. So now if they special summon anything, I can just tribute and destroy everything that they have special summoned. And because I tributed something, guess what? Monster comes back. Boom. And because I tributed something, a token. So I have a token on the field. So we set the Dark Light because we can. So I summon, so I would end my turn. They would go. If they did anything, I would immediately Dark Light. Now, so I would sacrifice the Lilith. Or no. Yeah, I would just... Yeah, so let's see. Destroy all monsters that were special summoned this turn. So... Yeah, I mean, actually, I guess I wouldn't even have to. I'll just sacrifice their monster if they special summon more than one. Even if they didn't, why not, right? If they had a Solemn Judgment down, it would kill their monster regardless. So yeah, we got this one hardcore. So we're going into game 3. This time, we actually went through a good amount of cards there. I am going to power shuffle this. And again, worst case scenario, at least from what I've found, is you're going first. Because that draw is really nice. So, like, if someone tells you to go second, they're either hinting really hard that they're running, like, Counter Fairies or Burn, or Gravekeepers, some sort of, like, hardcore counter strategy, or they aren't good at the game, essentially. So, because they not only do they get a draw, but they also get to attack, which is really strong. Like, I don't care about your setup. I don't even care if you got a toolbox. This deck doesn't care if you have a toolbox deck. Don't matter. You really want to hate on toolbox decks? You put Thunder King Ryos in here. Yeah, that'll just kill anything. So we're going to draw our 5, assuming we go first, which is worst case scenario. We got Curse of Darkness, 1000 per spell card. We have Sinister Yorishiro. We have 2 Arima the Wicked Wardens. And we have 1 Archfiend Cavalry. So, as soon as we see this, what I would do is discard 1 Arima, search your deck for the closest Lair of Darkness, play your Lair of Darkness. We'll set Curse of Darkness and Sinister Yorishiro. And then we will summon, let's see here. What would we summon? It's a hard call. Um, I would just end my turn. You know what? We're not going to summon anything. So they go. They're like, all right, well, I don't know what he's got, but we're going to punch him in the face. And you're like, well, I don't have mirror forces or stuff because I got 3 starter decks. So you take the punch, and you draw your card. Sinister Yorishiro number 2. So at this point, you're looking, and the problem is they have a monster out now. So what you do, you summon Arima the Wicked Warden. And now what you do is you tribute their monster for a... You could get a draw, or you could search your deck for your boss monster. Right now, both of those are really hard decisions to make. But since I have the Sinister Yorishiros, I can keep him alive, which means I'm going to go get my boss monster. So we're going to get Darkest Diablos, Lord of the Lair. And we'll set the second Sinister Yorishiro, and then end your turn. Now, if they don't have anything, you can punch, get rid of their monster. If they do have a lot of stuff, I'd recommend playing safe with him. You could swing if you can kill it. If you can't, you sack off your Yorishiro, and then they would go. They would do something, and you can use your second Yorishiro to protect him again. Now you would draw. They have a monster on the field, so you can sacrifice their monster for the draw of a card. And because you did that, you can special summon your boss monster. And that's relatively free. And as soon as that happens, you can play Lilith as a normal summon and immediately get one of the 3 traps. You get Dark Light, you get Eradicator, and in this case, I would say you get another Eradicator, honestly. So, hoping to hit an Eradicator. Now, let me make sure. I think it's just, let's see. No, it just needs 3 normal traps. It doesn't need 3 normals with different names. So you can do that. 1, 2, 3. We got an Eradicator. So we'll shuffle these guys back in. Bada bing. So we have a Lilith, an Arima, a Diablos, and we have a set Eradicator, which we can use on their turn. So now we would draw, or they would draw, and we activate our Curse of Darkness, because now we can call traps. So the only thing they can play are spells, which will hurt them, which is pretty cool. But we weighed off on that. So, because we have a pretty strong field presence at the moment. Our field has a total of 5,700 attack points. They would probably go after Arima. We let Arima die. We have 2 Arimas in the grave now. They would go to end turn, and as soon as they do that, we flip the Eradicator, we sacrifice Diablos, Lord of the Lair, and we call traps. So their traps are gone. We draw for our turn. Oh boy. I just got Legendary Maju Grisette. That 1 tech, that guy, he says, cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by tributing all monsters you control. This card's attack becomes the combined original attack of the tributed monsters. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Really cool card. So now we play Recurring Nightmare, which is a normal spell, so we take 1,000 life points. We don't care. We get both Arimas back. So now we summon an Arima. The Arima activates its effect to draw a card by sacrificing their monster. So we get to draw, getting another Eradicator Virus, which we set. That sets off Darkest Diablos, who special summons from grave. Let's see. Is he only sacrificed? If the dark monster you control is tributed, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. But that's only once per turn. So we already used that effect this turn. Okay. But we have a way to bring him back in our hand where we have a second Arima. So immediately, they don't have any backfield that can hurt us, really. And if so, we know what it is. So if we can risk it, we're going to do it, and we're going to bring out Legendary Majuk Rosette, who does piercing through defense, and his attack will be 5,700 attack with piercing, and they don't have traps. And any spells they use hurt them. Yeah, any spell. Even quick plays or continuous, so... yeah, so we won that. We basically won the match. Like, I don't see them coming back from that. You top deck into a Dark Light. Even if they clear that, you summon Arima, you sack their monster, you get your boss monster back, you have a Dark Light and an Eradicator down. If they do get rid of it, you sacrifice it for your Eradicator, because why not? And this time you call spells and give them no hope at all. But again, I think it's super strong. I mean, for you guys watching, you guys probably have a lot nicer, collections than just 3 starter decks, which is fine. You can augment it with really cheap cards just to make this brutal. Again, Rush Recklessly's would be really cool in here. Another thing would be like, your typical straight up staples, your Reborn, your Dark Hole, your Solemn Brigades, things like that. Other things that you might want to try are things like Horn of Heaven, tribute a monster to negate the summon of a monster. A normal summon, so again, you'd have to see. That would be a side deck card probably. Foolish Burial, for sure, just to dump your boss monster. We didn't really see some of the text in here, but we saw most of the things that we ran. Like, I didn't see Vanity's Fiend. The Dark Lights are admittedly a little weak. I would probably swap those out for Econs or something. But, I mean, for $30, this is a pretty strong deck. I will be doing this probably in a week or so with the light structure deck as well. So I hope to see you guys there. Eventually, I will be having a schedule for all this stuff. League games, Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope to do D&D here soon. But I'm glad you guys were able to join, and I will talk to you later. All right, so see you later. Bye.